All right. You all read the story, you talked about the story. Do you have any questions about the story?
Yeah, I mean, did he die or he just imagined?
All right, did he die or did he just imagine? Viviana, what do you say?
Um, I understood that Ismael is the minister at the same time, but he is imagine. I'm not. It's not imagine. I'm sorry. That Ismael is the minister, and he is talking about himself, but in a third person. And he decided to suicide himself because he had a tricky life. I understood that.
All right, that is one more possibility. Let's say, Marcelo, what can you tell us about the story?
Okay, hey, good afternoon. Well, I was, kind of lost because I had a meeting, but well, I heard to my colleagues that, yeah, he was imagining what would happen if he would kill himself, and at the end, we think that it was only a kind of nightmare. Yep. Okay. So uh, really, I didn't finish reading. So I can say more things, but yeah.
Okay. One more. Dorleni, what do you have for us?
Okay, what I understood is that Ismael was disappointed of a friend, and this friend was the minister, and he decided to kill the minister, and Ismael was the person who had hidden the gun in the minister's office, and when he decided to kill him, he just went and looked for the gun and killed the man.
All right, very good. Give me one more second. And I'll let you. Okay, this story, the author is Luisa Valenzuela, right? The original story is in Spanish, right? I'm going to have you listen to the story. Da-da-dum. You're looking at my browser, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Teacher, I have a question. Does this writer write in Spanish or she does in English?
All right, hold on. This. The original writer of the story is Luisa Valenzuela, right? This story was translated into English by Helen Lane, right? And in Spanish, the story is called Pavada de Suicidio, right? So let's listen to it in Spanish and see if the idea is just the same.
Valenzuela, estoy grabando para la Biblioteca del Congreso hoy 28 de mayo de 1976 y voy a leer algunos cuentos de mi último libro titulado Aquí pasan cosas raras. Pavada de suicidio. Ismael agarró el revólver y se lo pasó por la cara despacito. Después oprimió el gatillo y se oyó el disparo. ¡Pam! Un muerto más en la ciudad. La cosa ya es un vicio. Primero agarró el revólver que estaba en un cajón del escritorio, después se lo pasó suavemente por la cara, después se lo plantó sobre la sien y disparó, sin decir palabra. ¡Pam! Muerto. Recapitulemos. El escritorio es bien solemne, de veras ministerial. Nos referimos a la estancia escritorio. El mueble escritorio también, muy ministerial y cubierto con un vidrio que debe de haber reflejado la escena y el asombro. Ismael sabía dónde se encontraba el revólver. Él mismo lo había escondido allí. Así que no perdió tiempo en eso. Le bastó con abrir el cajón correspondiente y meter la mano hasta el fondo. Después lo sujetó bien, se lo pasó por la cara con una cierta voluptuosidad antes de apoyárselo contra la sien y oprimir el gatillo. Fue algo casi sensual y bastante inesperado. Hasta para él mismo, pero ni tuvo tiempo de pensarlo. Un gesto sin importancia y la bala ya había sido disparada. Falta algo. Ismael en el bar con un vaso en la mano reflexionando sobre su futura acción y las posibles consecuencias. Hay que retroceder más aún si se quiere llegar a la verdad. Ismael en la cuna llorando porque está sucio y no lo cambian. No tanto. Ismael en la primaria peleándose con un compañerito que mucho más tarde llegaría a ser ministro, sería su amigo, sería traidor. No. Ismael en el ministerio sin poder denunciar lo que sabía amordazado. Ismael en el bar con el vaso en la mano, el tercer vaso y la decisión irrevocable. Mejor la muerte. Ismael empujando la puerta giratoria de entrada al edificio, empujando la puerta vaivén de entrada al cuerpo de oficinas, saludando a la guardia, empujando la puerta de entrada a su despacho. Una vez en su despacho, 7 pasos hasta su escritorio. Asombro, la acción de abrir el cajón, retirar el revólver y pasárselo por la cara, casi única y muy rápida. La acción de apoyárselo contra la sien y oprimir el gatillo. Otra acción pero inmediata a la anterior. Pam, muerto. E Ismael saliendo casi aliviado de su despacho, el despacho del otro, del ministro, aún previendo lo que le esperaría afuera.
All right. Who's dead?
Ismael. Ismael is
Okay.
the minister.
Put your hands up in the Zoom thingy and tell me if you think Ismael died. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, put your hands down. Please put your hands up if you think Ismael killed the minister. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12. All right. 7 and 12, that is 21. There are a couple of people who no opina, no responde. I don't know who you are, but it's okay. All right.
Me, because at the end, he said that, or it says that he waits. So I'm not so sure if they have died. I'm not totally sure, sorry.
It's all right. This is a sort of difficult reading at some point. Yes. Okay, now. Number 1, Ismael is not the minister, right? He is not the minister. So, and the minister is dead. That's what we need to know. The minister is dead. Ismael is not the minister. Correct?
Therefore, he didn't die.
Therefore, Ismael didn't die. The minister died, and Ismael killed him. Now, the $1 million question is, if Ismael killed the minister, why is the story called All About Suicide?
Maybe Ismael planned to kill himself, but he ended up killing somebody else. Maybe.
Maybe because it's a suicide action to kill, like to what he did or what's gonna, because at the end it says what awaits him.
Okay, thank you.
I think that Ismael has a double personality, like the Fight Club. So Ismael is not the minister, but the other personality of Ismael is the minister. Sorry.
Okay, that is a plausible explanation as well. After watching the Fight Club, definitely, yes. But it was you, Isolina, right? you mentioned this, even though he can predict what awaits him, right? Remember, it is Argentina and it is in the 60s. So we are thinking about the social context in this case is um, the political reality in Argentina in the 60s. So it was corruption, and if you don't agree, you just disappear, and this kind of things. So he just killed a minister who was a corrupt person, most likely. So Ismael knows what awaits him. So by killing the minister, he just killed himself, right? That's why the story is all about suicide. Yeah. Now that we have understood the story, in the same groups you were just talking now, you're going to plan a lesson. It is a 60-minute lesson plan. This is your context, 15 to 17-year-old students, B1, that is a pre-intermediate level, and warm-up, comprehension activities, focus on one language issue, right? It could be grammatical or vocabulary. You choose. Just focus on one language issue. And one production activity. Yes? Is this clear? Yes? Fair enough. All right. There. I'm going to send you to your groups again, and I'm going to give you lesson plan 15 minutes. It's okay? No, it is 15 is never okay. All right, let's say 20 just now. Okay, so I'll send you to your groups. I'm here for questions. I'll be visiting you.
Just 1 second. So this is our lesson plan. So this is the data, and here we have the lesson aims. The students will be able to identify the main idea of the story. First of all, students will be able to explain their point of view about the story, and they will be able to develop their critical thinking.
Okay.
Talking about the evidence, we have that students can complete their tasks assigned through the lessons. And the assumptions that we have that the students can do at this level, maybe the students can be able to share their personal thoughts about killing someone, suicide, kidnapping, power, and greed. Our personal aims are to help the students to develop their ideas if they are like stuck when they cannot express themselves in English, and make the lesson varied and engaging for the students. Then our anticipated problems, maybe confusing ideas at the beginning of the story or maybe at the end, and it could be cover the solution, cover them by explaining the topic. So our lesson plan starts with a warm-up. And first of all, we are going to make a U-shape setup for the classroom because it will help us to have a better view of the students when they share their ideas. Then we have conversation about what are the most terrible things politicians have done in Ecuador in order to introduce the topic before doing the reading activity. Then students need to take notes on the board. The teacher has to take notes on the board, introducing the new vocabulary that we have in the reading story. Then we need to introduce the topic about what was the reality in Argentina back in the 60s, because we think that this is the most important part and the key idea of this reading activity. Then a general history of Argentina and some events to give them the context of killing someone, suicide, kidnapping, power, and greed. As these students are from like teenagers, we were kind of afraid of if this was like a good idea to talk about suicide in the English class, but I think that we're going to do it with some like standards type of conversation. Then for the development, we have provided students with a copy of the story All About the Suicide by Luisa Valenzuela. It would be a 10 minutes reading activity with a partner. So this is going to be in groups. So this can be easier for the students to share what they understood. Then we have, after the reading, present the questions about the comprehension of the story, establish an open conversation in the classroom in order to listen to the students, analyze thoughts. Then we are going to ask them who died, if it was Ismael or the minister. Trying to establish not a debate, but trying to get the information that they got from the reading activity. We also have the students listening the original audio so they can express their own opinions. This should be 20 minutes. We also think that not only reading, but also listening to the story would help them to understand or to have a clear idea. So when we mentioned original audio, we were thinking about the L1 audio. Then we have students must write a short story according to what they were listening to in the class and see if they change their ideas. Like if they have an idea at the beginning of when they just start reading, and if they change their idea when they just listen the audio. And then for the evaluation, we have, after this, students must have the opportunity to discuss in a forum about the tragic scenario from the story. A student can set a positive ending of the story with their own ideas about the story. This could be as a homework. So we were talking about implementing a debate, but we think that B1 level is kind of difficult to gather a lot of ideas to explain this topic, because I think that even for us was kind of difficult to explain our points of view. So we just decided to do a forum and discuss about this topic. And finally, the homework on the assessment would be giving an ending, like a happy ending to this story. And that's all that we have.
Yes, I want to give some ideas, because what we liked about this planning is that students, we can make the students set up a positive ending to this story, and also the U-shape. But the things that we have to improve maybe is to find out the correct method to talk about these delicate situations like kidnapping or suicide or killing. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you pull it up just for a bit? No. The procedure. Okay, there. What language item are you going to focus on?
The language issue is reading comprehension.
And also trust we do some vocabulary there.
All right. Okay, guys, what I meant by language issue was something related to grammar or vocabulary, right? Okay, let's begin with this. As a reading comprehension lesson, this works perfectly fine. Yes? I like this very much. It is well organized. It has nice activities. So you're going to use the Spanish version as well?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. No problem with it. Yes. Just as a question, speaking about grammar or vocabulary, what kind of grammar and vocabulary could you use or could you discuss using this story?
The use of past for storytelling and introduction of new vocabulary, because these kind of topics are not easy to introduce. So, but in one point of their lives, they will discuss about it.
Yes,
so the introduction of that.
Totally agree. Okay, there. Fair enough. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next group, which is Valentina and company.
All right. Could you please share the screen? One second, please. All right. Valentina, can you take me to the first part of the document, please? All right. So we decided to start the lesson with a warm up. In the warm up, we're going to be doing a brainstorm, basically starting with this image that says, look at the picture and say, what do you think about it? We want to take the students away from the suicide concept, and we want to start making them think on the corruption topic, what it is to know a dirty secret and not to know what to do about it. Okay, more or less. So because we think they are teenagers, and to concentrate on killing or suicide, that might be risky. We want to, as an objective, we want to use simple present tense in order to write an alternative ending for this story and to establish characters and roles in the story, in the sense that if we check that they understood the characters and their roles, then we can evaluate if the objective was successful, right? Then after the brainstorming, they have a pair work of say 6 to 7 minutes. They're going to be doing this short conversation on what is your idea about keeping a dirty little secret that everybody has, right? Let's continue down, and my classmate is going to present this part of the activities.
Okay, in the body of our lesson plan are the activities. First, we're going to start with a comprehension activities for the reading. We're going to make like a worksheet. We found a video that explains the reading, and we are going to link the images of the paragraphs with the images of the video with the paragraph. This would be the main task, the principal task, that they have to read and try to relate each paragraph to an image, and obviously trying to understand the paragraph. Next, they are going to watch the video in order to reinforce the comprehension and to give them more information. And at the end, they will have a question based on the reading activity. They could be multiple choice and open-end question. These are questions for comprehension.
In the production activity, students, we are going to, the teacher is going to provide the rubric to the students, and the students are going to work in pairs in order to write an alternative ending to the story using the simple past tense. We are going to give them like 10 minutes, and after that, the teacher is going to provide feedback if they are doing it correctly. And that would be all.
Okay, thank you. The video you have there is a video about the story?
Yes, we found a video about the story.
Oh, will you look at that?
Yes.
Okay, but is this video for the story in English or Spanish?
In English.
Sweet.
In English.
Yes.
All right.
It's very easy to understand with the video.
Exactly.
I'm going to steal this from you guys. Thank you.
Can you share the link, please?
Go for it.
No, guys, this is a forum, and everybody can see each other's lesson plans.
Perfect.
So once you upload the document, everybody has access to the document. So thank you, guys. All right. Answer comprehension questions. All right. Students should look at specific pictures, the video. Okay. Alternative ending of the story. This This tends to be a good idea most of the times. Yes, I agree with that. Rubric for the ending. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Provide feedback to suit you simple past tense. I'm going to assume that before this activity, you already covered the topic of past tense with your students.
Of course.
All right.
Yes, because they are intermediate level.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Nice job. Group number 3 would be Ramiro and company.
That's me. I'm going to share it right now. Okay. Okay, good. Everyone can see the word test. This is something we were working together. It, it wasn't finished. My apologies. The objectives, it was a little hard for us to set the objectives. We didn't know, so we asked for help, and Christian kind of explained what he had to do. In this case, we focused on talking about reading and comprehension skills, how to develop them. And this was the language issue we decided to talk about too. Okay, we are going to try to cover this in our lesson plan. So we decided to introduce something with a short video about this so they can kind of set themselves in the context that the story happens. We made this, and after they watched this short video about the history in Argentina, we asked the question. We are going to ask this question and let it sink in so they can kind of think about the different answers they can have from the first part. Okay, well, then the teacher will have to ask the students so they can talk about this, so they can, if we ask the students to work in this in like pairs or groups, it's going to take a long time, and we need to check also efficiency of it.
We cannot hear you, Miguel.
I'm sorry, Miguel. Somehow we cannot hear you.
Just easily repeated. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'll try again. So here it is. As I said, we're going to make them watch this video about Argentina and those times so we can set context of the reading. Then the teacher is going to write this in the board. Okay, he's going to write it in the board and is going to ask the students to think about the answers. Here, the question is completely open, so they can talk about this freely. After that, we will elicit answers from the students. We discussed about this. We decided not to. We decided students not to work this in pairs or in groups because we also need to check time efficiency and the objective of the activity. Okay, so with 2 or 3 answers from the students, we can work with that. That's what we decided. Then we discussed the main consequence that comes from violence, and this is how we can actually talk about the topic now. Okay, those are one of the consequences that comes from violence, and then they can go to the reading. But before that, we need to check previous knowledge about vocabulary. Okay, and as soon as they underline the words that they don't understand, we can help them solve new the words. In this case, you can use your cell phone to find the meaning, use the dictionary, use the computer, etc., etc. But I do think it's important to define if you're going to check the vocabulary at word level, at sentence level, or at paragraph level, which are the 3 ways to assess vocabulary. Okay, after that, we presented the audio. After they check the reading, after they read it, sorry, I think we skipped one of them here. Here we should be, okay, read about it and ask some questions based on the reading to check how much they understood. After that, we present them in Spanish so they can understand. And then we can make an activity that here with this one, we are trying to cover this one, okay? I think in this part, in the activity part or in the evaluation, it's important to set specific indicators to prove you achieve the objectives. That's the main reason why we wrote this, okay? And then after that part, we're going to ask students to talk about who committed the suicide, if he actually killed himself or the minister, and then explain the reasons. Finally, as evaluation, we're going to help them identify the 2 or 3 ideas we are going to ask them because they are in pre-intermediate, it's pretty basic level. We are going to ask them to underline 2 or 3 ideas that help them understand the main part of the story, the gist of the story. Okay, and with that, we cover this one, the first one. And in groups, we're going to help them, okay, now that you underlined the main ideas that helped you understand the main point of the story, working groups, no more than 3 people, working groups, and I join your idea so you can build one final statement that covers the reading. Okay, well, that's how we were going to end this part of the part of our lesson plan. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. I like the organization, the way you connect your objectives with evaluation as well, and definitely it should be all connected. One statement that covered your ideas, so it is one sentence summary. That sounds good for the level, convenient. Yes. Yeah, very good one. Yes.
Christian, there's something that must that can be improved. Please help me.
No, honestly, it looks good because you have comprehension questions. The gist of the story, right? That is the idea. You're just when you work with reading comprehension, you have 2 levels of understanding: global understanding and understanding for details. If your objective at this point is understanding for details, you just did it nicely, right? Because that is the gist of the story. Then you have identify the structures, and this, where was the identify the structures here? Who committed suicide, right?
Yes,
Yes, when
exactly.
analyzing who commits suicide, you have to pay attention to the details. Who are we talking about? Who is this he's referring to?
Yeah,
So, yes.
Yeah, well, we're going to try to maybe focus on pronouns, but forget about it. No, it was.
Yeah, all right. Focusing on a language issue could be talking about pronouns and reference.
Right? Yeah, but we decided to focus just on reading, not grammar points. That would be a different.
Fair enough. Fair enough. For 60 minutes, this is a good plan. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Nice job, guys. Thank you.
Teacher, I'm sorry. We were before Miguel. We are Ramirez group.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am going to start sharing.
Please share.
Here, this is our lesson plan. Here we have the objective. The main objective is it is to read a literary text to identify the difference between simple past tense and past perfect tense. So we are focusing these tenses in grammar. And specific objectives are the students will be able to get the general idea of the literary text. Also, they will be able to create a new story, a new end of the story, but using these grammar points, so past simple past tense and past perfect tense. As warm up, we have here a brainstorming. They are going to brainstorm about the teacher is going to show them some pictures related to the story, and they are going to tell the teacher what is the topic, what they think is the topic about. Here we have ask students to skim the text and identify the main idea. Then have students work in pairs to highlight new words and write them on the board. Then the teacher is going to use these new words to make sentences in simple past and also past perfect tense. Of course, they already know simple past and past perfect tense, but here this is versus. And also they are going to identify and highlight sentences in simple past and past perfect tense with the teacher. Then the teacher uses this one of the examples from the highlighted sentences and asks students to identify which event happened first, because this is the idea of these verses. Have students do the same thing with the rest of the sentences and ask them to create 3 new sentences identifying the event happened first. And finally, as evaluation, the students have to delete the last paragraph, and they are going to create a new end,
a new alternative end for the story, but using at least 5 sentences in simple past and 5 sentences in past perfect tense. And that was it.
Okay, thank you. No, just pull it down there. Okay. No, take me to the general objective, please. There. All right. Read the literary text, identify the differences between simple past tense and past perfect tense. Students will be able to get the general idea of a literary text. Students will be able to create a new something, I presume, for the story using using the grammar point study. A new ending. With the literary text, identify. Okay, so you are using this story to reinforce and practice a grammar point. That is your objective.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay, let's move on. Take me to the plan. Warm up. Students to skim the text, identify the main idea. What is the main idea?
So what happened in the story? What they think that happened in the story.
What they think happened in the story. Okay. Okay, the idea of using past tenses as narrative tenses with the combination of past simple and past perfect is an excellent idea. My question is, B1, not B1, pre-intermediate students have this knowledge?
B1, yes, because they are 15, between 15 and 17 years old, and
yes.
in pre-intermediate, they know it.
No.
Simple past and past perfect.
Simple past, yes.
I'm teaching right now. Yeah, simple past and past perfect tense. Yeah.
And all right. Okay, maybe it may depend on the textbook, because usually my pre-intermediates don't know past perfect. My intermediate students know past perfect. But anyway, considering that they know past perfect, this is a good plan. And you're practicing and you're looking for examples and you find examples in the text, and I like this very much because I've used this text for years with my students, and it is the first time I actually see a past perfect here. Because I've never used it really for grammar, but yeah, it is there. So yes, if you're using this plan to reinforce grammar, it works okay, right? My original idea with this is to focus something on a little bit more literary aspect or on a reading comprehension aspect than a grammatical aspect. But your plan is good. I cannot complain. Yes.
Thank you.
I was just expecting a little bit more literature, but you're testing understanding of the general idea of the story, and you're using activities to reinforce a grammatical point, right? But for your actual practice, let's make sure that when you focus on literature, let's focus on literature. Although, right, this is a very good idea to exploit the text as much as possible, right? The first group was going to discuss a little bit about vocabulary. Then the previous group talked about interference with first language. So you see, it is one short story, and it is a very short story, and you can exploit it in hundreds of ways. So that is the point, right? All right, activate, delete the last paragraph, change the ending. Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next. We have Carlita. Let's say Daniel, Isolina, Jenny, and Viviana.
So, okay.
Isolina, you don't have audio. You're
Oh,
mute.
sorry. Okay, do you want to continue, Jenny, or do you want me to go?
It doesn't matter. Okay, so here we have the topic of this lesson. It is vocabulary, understanding, and a variety of words and their meanings. The time or the duration for this class is going to be 60 minutes, and the level for the that we are going to apply this lesson, it is the B1 pre-intermediate. The objectives that we have here, it is understand and comprehend words in a specific context, infer meaning from the text, identify main and secondary ideas, conclude different endings, and acquire new vocabulary and exemplify from the assigned text in a daily life context. In our warm-up, we were discussing, and it is a brainstorm, the activity that we are going to have here. In this brainstorm, they are going to give us some ideas to solve the corruption in Ecuador. And for this activity, we have just 5 minutes to talk. And the activities, it is the story all about suicide. Previously, we are going to apply this technique that it is the popcorn reading, reading as a group, 5 minutes for this activity. And in the second, because they are going to read twice, the first one, it is in group with the popcorn reading. The second one, it is individually, and take notes about the new vocabulary. Later, in Paris, students will discuss the main idea of the story in 5 minutes. And later, the students will paraphrase the new vocabulary found in the story by using a dictionary. So they have to look at the new words and interact in Paris. Later, in groups, students will come up with different endings, conclusion regarding the story using the new vocabulary acquired in 10 minutes. And the last activity, I'm sorry, it's not the last activity, but meanwhile the students are working, the teacher will monitor the groups and give the feedback. In the evaluation, students will imagine that they are a detective in charge of this case. In charge of this case, they have to come up with a inquiry detailing what probably happened to the minister implementing the new vocabulary that was found in the story previously. And in 2 minutes, they have to record and make an audio record for the judge with their final conclusion. So we try to link with what we have read in the article, that the first one, it is minimize the activity and imagine in a context in the reality, I mean, and also that with their own resources, linguistic resources, they can put in practice what they have learned. That is what we have.
Okay, thank you. Can you please pull it up a little bit so I can see the... Okay, there, perfect. Miguel, you have your hand up before I say something else?
Oh, yeah, of course, quick question. What do you guys mean by paraphrase the new vocabulary?
So they are going to use in context the vocabulary.
But those are words they don't know, right?
So they are going to use synonyms in order to...
All right, so they are going to underline the words they don't know, work with the dictionary, and find synonyms, and paraphrase. The thing is that you paraphrase passages or sentences, right? Not just words. So you're going to paraphrase a fragment of the story, I presume. Is that what you mean? Yes. All right. Understand words in context, yes, and the paraphrasing makes sure that you understand the vocabulary in context. Okay, here. What are you going to do to have students infer the meaning from the text?
Infer. So we didn't write that part. They are go with the topic. They are going to know what they have to imagine what they suppose that it is the text about, maybe.
All right. Okay, you're going to serve me as a good example. As we mentioned before, your objectives are reflected in the activities and in the evaluation. Yes, it happens to all of us. It is not a rookie mistake. It happens to all of us, right? Because we are ambitious. That's just it. We are ambitious. We want to cover a lot of things, and sometimes we just don't have the time. So let's make sure that the time is enough and the activities we're planning will cover all of our objectives. If not, you could leave that inference objective for the next class, right? Just and I like this. Working inferences in a text is very positive for students' reading comprehension. So this is something I really wanted to see, but it's okay. Your plan is good. It is well timed. It doesn't have very long activities. The idea of paraphrasing passages definitely reinforces the idea of understanding vocabulary in context, right? And it is going to be super useful for when they write their thesis, right? And you too, and yours too. So paraphrasing, remember that. Okay, you have two things here. Students will come up with a different ending and conclusion. And then, as the evaluation, they're going to be the detectives. Right. Well, no, it's okay. I loved your idea of the detective activity, right? And they have to present a report in audio. I really like this, right? Because they have to show the evidence to the judge so that the judge takes the adequate decision. I really like this activity. Thank you very much. Nice job.
Thank you.
And last but not least, yeah, I've got Emilia, Melanie, and Zlilma.
Okay, our lesson is a vocabulary lesson based on reading a short story. The objectives are students identify new vocabulary words, students analyze the meaning of some vocabulary words, students modify the story with the vocabulary analyzed before, and the students create a new paragraph for the story. For the warm-up in groups, the students are going to make an exploratory reading about the story All About Suicide by Luisa Valenzuela. And in a piece of paper, they are going to brainstorm about what they understood about the reading. And then the teacher will ask them to share the brainstorm and clarifies the message of the story. In the activities, in the comprehension activities, we have that students will read the story individually. Now they will read deeply the story. And in groups, they will identify and underline the vocabulary words that are difficult for them to understand. Then they will inquire the meaning of these words using the internet, dictionary, or other sources chosen by the students. After this, in the same groups, they will create a new sentence using the underlined vocabulary. They have to create a new sentence instead of the sentence that had the vocabulary that they underlined. And these sentences need to have the same meaning in order to match the story. And then students will share one sentence with the class. And as an evaluation, individually students will write an extra paragraph to the story using at least 4 vocabulary words that they learned, the ones that they inquired and they investigated about. The paragraph added needs to make sense in the story.
All right. Yes, would you make it so I can see from the objective to the evaluation altogether, please? Perfect. Identify vocabulary, analyze the meaning of vocabulary, they're using dictionary or websites or something, you mentioned that. Modify the story with vocabulary analyzed before, so you're paraphrasing as well, right?
Yes.
Because you're having them create new sentences that have the same exact meaning, or as close as possible, because you know that there are not perfect synonyms, correct?
Yes.
So if you change the vocabulary, you're going to have to change something else in the sentence so that it keeps the meaning. That is a good point to keep in mind.
Yes, that's why they were creating the whole sentence again and not just changing with another word, because then it would change the meaning.
Totally agree. Brainstorm what I understood about it. Okay, the evaluation. Yeah. Okay. I like this and this evaluation activity as well, because we have talked about changing the ending, right? A couple of groups changed the ending, and that is a valid activity. A lot of people use it, but something very positive from this one is that you're adding to the ending, right? So you have to keep the same setting, mood of the story, and you add to it. And this activity is doing that. So I like this activity very much too. All right, 120, 140 words. So yes, it is still a short story. Needs to make sense in the story. Perfectly correct. And yes. All right. So you are working with vocabulary, you're working with paraphrasing, you're working with verb tenses, you're working with narration, interference of first language. So one very short story can be taken advantage of in multiple ways, right? And the discussion that you talked about is it okay to talk about suicide with teenagers? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Because yes, I agree. This is a very delicate topic, correct? And we should only do it if we are 100% confident that we can deal with that, right?
And
Jenny.
Professor, and also last week in my high school, we have the must. We have the must to try to identify the person, the student that it is in risk, because the authorities and the distrito told us to try to prevent, because now we have a high rate of suicide from students. And maybe it's because of the pandemic, or maybe it's because of the activities that we are doing. But unfortunately, it is not so long ago that a student from our high school killed himself. And also now we have to try to find what is going on with our students, in special the guidance have to be monitoring the students.
Right.
That's why they asked.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I guess the authorities are going crazy. And the classmates of this student are having it really hard, so you should all pay attention to them, to all that group in particular. So yes, suicide is a very delicate issue to talk about, right? And if we do not feel 100% confident, we should ask for help, right? Your schools have dobes, right? This is just me, my personal opinion from when I was in high school a very long time ago. I didn't trust Dove very much, right? So maybe students don't want to talk to them, but they might want to talk to you. So make sure you have all the tools necessary to deal with this kind of talk, right? And literature is a good way to tackle this issue without actually telling your students, okay, let's talk about something really important in your lives, right? That they might not feel comfortable talking about, right? So if you introduce one piece of literature, a story, a poem, right? Teenagers like poetry, whether they admit it or not, right? Because you can be a tough guy and still read poetry in the end, or write poetry in the end. So it touches students' feelings in different ways. So you using this material in your class can tackle different aspects in the students' lives, right? And you are helping not only in language, but in life, right? And again, you are not only teaching English, you're teaching literature. You're teaching your students understand literature and poetry and express themselves in different ways. All right. There for now. I have something else to show you, but I'll do it after the recess. Let's take our 10-minute recess and see you back. Right.
Teacher, I have a question.
Yes.
I selected. Let me share. Allow me to share the screen very quickly. So I selected a video for my classmate to comment, and I was.
Okay, so we can start.
Please.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, teacher. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to present the classroom interaction and classroom discipline. Our group is, our members are Doleni, Valentina, Ramiro, and me. So first, we're going.
Sorry, Raul. Sorry, my mistake. Sorry, I didn't get that. I'm going to upload the task. Should I upload a document or just copy paste the content? Sorry.
You can upload the document. Maybe it is better for organization, so we can all see the way you organized it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sorry, Raul. My apologies.
Okay, no problem. Okay, first, in order to start, we're going to talk about the teaching questionnaire. For this reason, we're going to make an activity with Menti-Mentor in order to know what do you know about this, how to ask questions. So we can go to the following link, go to menti.com, and you can enter the following codes in order to answer the question. Is in the screen. May I share my screen, please, Vale or Ramiro?
Don't worry, the results will appear here.
Okay, no problem. So the code is 2486-8408. You can go to Menti, enter this code in order to watch this question. So you can start brainstorming your ideas. Why do we ask questions in a class? What are the reasons you ask questions in class? Okay, I can see that some ideas. Maybe we can ask for interaction to generate curiosity, clarify comprehension, feedback, elicit speaking, engage students, previous knowledge to test, to wake students up, to elicit speaking, previous knowledge to evaluate. That's good. Thank you. All answers are good. So we're going to look next in the next slides some reasons why we ask questions, and obviously what types of questions we have. Thank you. Now, how to ask questions? This is the teacher questioning. First, in the document, in the article, we can reflect that there are different types of questions. I make a little classification first. The display, short answer and close-ended questions, which are used for checking comprehension. They are used normally for testing and to show, and they are usually show or few answers. It means that we can ask with just yes or no, or just specific answers. Also, we can use this question to recall simple information like rules, conjugation, grammar points, in order to check understanding in the classroom. And it is also used at classroom as an informal evaluation. Next, please. In the other hand, we have the genius, long answer, open-end questions, which are useful to develop critical and creative thinking. Also, they have long and multiple answers. So here we have a little bit more output of students. We can also have these questions to practice contents. It is used for practice, but not for testing. And this is more difficult to correct or monitor. So these kind of questions are more difficult to use in a classroom, but they can be useful for a homework or another task. We can continue. Okay, taking in mind that there are a lot of the kinds of questions and they have different purposes, as you saw in the previous slides, we have effective questioning. Every time we can ask questions to a student, we have to be clear. It means that we have to make sure that the students understand. So these principles are for asking questions. One is clarity, that make sure the students understand. Another is that the questions are interest. It means that they can challenge students and stimulate. For this reason, questions are also useful for motivating students and catching attention of them. Another is accessibility. The questions must be asked for all students, or at least for most of them, because if you ask questions like simple questions, with some students who won't pay attention or something like that. For the reason, accessibility is another principle. The level of answers, it means that the question in low levels must be simple questions, close questions, because they have to answer short answer or specific answers, and this is according to the level, no? The cognitive and linguistic skill that the students have, and obviously the language value. This means that the question must be related with the lesson, with the content they are learning or they have learned before. Also, the teacher reaction, it is another important principle. In order to have effective question, we have to, as teacher, to give them effective negative feedback or effective feedback in order to clarify the ideas of the answers that the students provide. We can continue. After talking about the teaching questioning, that is an important fact in classroom, we can also continue talking about the group and pair work, because here we have a little bit of difference, but the two works have a lot of things in common. In the article, the author mentioned that the group work is difficult to control and requires more contribution of ideas. So these are the main factors of group work, and that are useful for the learning process. And in contrast, the pair work is easy to control and is used for simple task work. It means that the group work requires more time, requires more information, and so on. In contrast, the pair work does not need that, okay? But what do they have in common? They can ensure the collaborative activity. They can develop a collaborative activity as well. They can foster learning autonomy. They can work, learn. The students can learn by themselves, no matter if they work in groups or if they work in pairs. And they can motivate and enjoy the students because they can discuss, share ideas, share with classmates and something like that. And obviously they can improve oral fluency because in a group or a pair work, they have to talk, to share ideas, to discuss. And obviously the usage frequency of them depends on each classroom. We have to take in mind that we have to use each of these activities, no matter what is group or pair, taking in mind that there are some problems. So in order to know what is the frequency to use this, we have to know what are the problems and how to address them. So the next slide is how to address them and what are the problems. First, the problems when we apply these activities, group or pair work activities, we can lose the class control, especially with teens. This is a big problem that we can face in every class. Another problem is that there are more distractions for students. It means that they can use L1 the first language in the group or in the pair work. They can make noise, they can play games, gossiping, and all of these things that they are used to do. And the third problem is that not all the students like or switch with the group working. It means that there are a lot of students that don't like to work in groups or even though in pairs. So how to address? We can continue. Here I underline some tips that the article provides us how to addressing problems. First is keep an eye on everything and establish limits. So the group or pair work must be limited, must be well explained, and they have to, and their activity must always be controlled by the teacher in class. Another is avoid the students misinterpreting. This means that they have to, the teacher must give students all instructions clear, ask if they understand, and solve doubts or problems. And third, we have to structure the task carefully. This may help also to avoid the misunderstanding and misinterpreting of the task. So because the task is easy to follow and students can work easily too, okay? Therefore, is manage discussion well. Let everybody give opinions. This means that students, while they're working groups, they have to express, they have to participate, and teacher must keep an eye on this too, because they have to manage this discussion in order to let everybody to talk. Another principle is know how students feel working in group. We have to know our students to know if the results of this grouping work are well, and if not, we can reduce these kind of activities and improve another. So these are the ways to address some problems. Thank you. We can continue to the next.
Good evening. I am going to talk about individual work. Individual work means to adapt text and tasks to the individual student's level. It means a speed of work needs personal learning styles. It will depend on learner choice and autonomy. Let's see something about self-access centers. Individualized learning is known as self-access center, which provides different materials as text, table games, etc. And the student is able to choose the activity. Self-access centers are common in universities and in colleges. However, they are expensive and require constant maintenance. A structure is required containing clear programs, deadlines, goals, tasks. Otherwise, students could lose motivation. These activities are monitored by the teacher constantly. Next. Okay, let's see something about individualization in the regular classroom. Students have some freedom to choose how, what, or how much they learn, while the teacher invites to choose from a range of tasks. This methodology is opposite to the lockstep learning, where everyone does similar activities at the same time. Self-access task means to motivate learners to be responsible and organized on their own learning. There are some self-tasks. We have worksheets where students choose the section and task they want to complete, or questions for homework. This is a reading comprehension activity, and students can finish answering at home. Varied tasks, that this is a set of different areas around the class with different materials and equipment. Computerized exercises on individual computers as well. Also readers from a school library, motivating home reading. At least students could read for 20 minutes per day. Finally, writing practice for about 20 minutes, as much as they can. This kind of activities will provide the students individualized speed, and students take the required time for the activity. Also, they get autonomy. Thank you. Next, please. Let's see something about individualization. Individualized activities vary according to the following aspects. Students' speed, because not all the students work at the same speed. Students' level, each student choose the appropriate level for himself or herself. Quantity is about how much or how little they produce or complete. The tasks are focused on language teaching, and teaching learning focus, which means that the different tasks that are prepared on the lesson for the lesson have the same aim. It's important to note that more individualized tasks mean more work for the teacher in evaluation and in feedback, because this process requires to be realized individually. Individualization is not feasible in most teaching contexts. Nevertheless, as teachers, we can provide it when possible, as we can get some positive results as self-confidence, build comprehension, gain autonomy and self-assurance. Next, please. Now we have an exercise here, and I want you to help me to choose one of these activities. We can expose to the students different activities, and they will decide one of them to work simple past. So we have reading comprehension, writing exercise, gap filling in computer, table games, or a role play. So what I want is you help me choosing one of these activities and tell me why did you choose this activity in the link that I am sharing to you. Now, okay, there is the link. Please help me with your answers, choosing one activity and telling me why.
I think this is. I think it's yes. I think it's the wrong link.
Really?
Yes, it's the storyboard that link.
Yeah, it is the one I shared with you guys.
Oh, sorry. Let me see. Wait a minute. Give me just 1 sec.
We can't read the story.
It's gonna take a bit longer, but there is a possibility.
Okay, this could be. This one is a Padlet.
This one's a Padlet.
Yes, please. Sorry. It's because I copied before your link in another part. Okay, we see two people have chosen table games. Others have chosen writing exercises. Very good. Okay, thank you. We can see here that you can choose different activities, and this demonstrates that individualization does not mean that we have to give a different activity or prepare different activity for each of the students that we have in our class. But we can create different corners, different activities, and the students could choose their favorite ones. Thank you very much. We can continue. Okay, now I am going to talk about blended learning. Learning that combines conventional teacher-students interaction in a face-to-face classroom situation with computer-mediated interaction in 3 specific moments: within the lesson, outside the lesson, instead of the lesson. Next, please. Okay, within the lesson, we can mention some elements that are important here. The interactive whiteboard is an attractive, and this is a flexible tool with which directs students' attention towards teacher-led interaction. Computers can be used collaboratively or individually as a notebook and coursebook. Students enjoy internet-based facilities, and they attract and focus attention towards individual and personalized learning. This tool put aside the teacher-led classroom process. Also, conventional books are replaced. However, it is imperative to maintain careful direction and monitoring to guarantee the intended use. Next, please. Let's see what happened outside the lesson. It refers to asynchronous teaching through computer-mediated communication. Teachers said that tasks and responses are given in the students' own time through some helpful digital tools as emails, wikis, blogs, or language management system platforms, as we have EVA platform. In asynchronous interaction, teachers are able to provide explanation or reading input, upload reading text, audio or video, start discussions through a forum, set tasks, receive comments on and assess the students' tasks, and also give final grades. It's important to mention that asynchronous teaching or learning is applied on courses based on distance. Nevertheless, it is more effective to apply or combine with blended learning. Next, please. Now we are going to talk about instead of the lesson. Computer programs enable synchronously teaching in spite of the students being miles away. They use a computer and log in and participate of the lesson on real time. However, it is not a substitute for face-to-face interaction. As teacher guides the students, as teachers guide and the students help to increase motivation, and in the other hand, it is quite important the social emotional development of the students. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you about classroom discipline, but first I needed to watch a part of the video and focus on the attitude of the teacher and also the students, okay?
Pouring their derision upon anything we did, exposing every weakness, however carefully hidden by the key.
What have we here, laddie? Mysterious scribblings? A secret code? No, poems no less. Poems, everybody! The laddie reckons himself a poet. Money gets back. I'm all right, Jack. Keep your hands off my stack. New car, caviar, 4-star daydream. Think I'll buy me a football team. Absolute rubbish, laddies. Get on with your work. Repeat that. Poems, everybody. The lad who reckons himself a poet.
Okay, based on what you saw, now I need you to go and enter to the link of Mentimeter. And on your experience, also based on your experience, tell me what is classroom disciplines for you? You have to define it with 3 words. You have just 1 minute. In order, okay? Follow rules. Skill, mutual respect, of course, connection. Well, based on what you said, the idea that you have, I can tell you that this is an agreement between teacher and students in which they set rules related to behavior in order to have an effective learning teaching. Thank you. We also have control the bad behavior, of course. Silence. Well, we are going to check now, how does a discipline classroom look like? First, the place. The place, of course, needs discipline, but most of the time, discipline is not sufficient in the classroom. And you mentioned on your ideas, you mentioned silence. Of course, we need silence in the classroom, but depending on the activities that we propose in our classroom, in our lesson plans, the classroom not always be quiet. For that reason, we need to keep in mind that if our classroom is noisy, is no bad, but if it is always noisy, that's bad, okay? The teacher always has to be under control of the classroom. It doesn't matter if the students initiate the activity, if they start talking, but the teachers have to propose all of the activities and also create a smoothly cooperation between teacher and student so that you can build cooperative learning. Also, as we have talked before, we have motivation in here. If the classroom is motivated to learn your subject, you don't have to manage too much the discipline. However, you also have to be careful at the moment of planning. You have to know exactly from the beginning to the end what is in your lesson. So in case that your students feel bored or dismotivated, you can not change the activity but adapt it to the moment. And also mention the book that it's not necessary, but it could help you to manage your classroom, the discipline in your classroom, if you set the goal of the class at the beginning to your students, so they have an idea of what they are going to learn. And in here we have that teachers have natural charismatic authority, but not all the teachers. The teacher that doesn't have a natural charismatic authority has to work harder than the ones that already have it. What teachers can do to create a disciplined classroom? In here we have some skills and also attitudes that we need to be careful and take in consideration. The first one is classroom management skills. In here, as a teacher, we have to we have to organize from the beginning to the end our class and know how the students are going to communicate with us. Like, for example, if they want to talk, they can raise their hands or ask for a word, that kind of things, okay? Also select the methodology. If the students see that you select a proper methodology for them, they will feel it like it is useful and also right for them, so they will cooperate with you in their learning. In here, this is an interesting point, interpersonal relationship, which mentioned that as teachers, we don't have to love all of our kids, all of our students, because we always have someone that doesn't pay attention, that is the thing about us, in the classroom. For that, but we need to we need to treat them with respect. We need to treat them with respect and also go goodwill towards all of them. Okay, the planning, as I told you, is very important. For that reason, must be clear and clean. Sorry, has to be clean with a clean organization, and also take in consideration include something that motivate our students. I have here some tips to advise, for beginner teachers. The first one is to be strict at the beginning, but you can slow down your attitude with them. Also, see that the class is in silence so that you can provide the instructions, and also you can use this is nice. Use their names so that you can connect with the students. The other one. Sorry, I can't see. The other one is to first, as I told you, to plan carefully, always speak clearly, and also check that the instructions are well received. As always, keep an eye on all of the students, move through all of them, and also this can help you to know what are they doing in their class, in your subject. And this one is really interesting. Start always with about your classroom, because that's help you to keep the attention of your students and also get interested to the topic. Prepare material according to the age, the ability, and also the cultural background that they have. In here we have manage your time. Get an expert in managing your time so that you can also vary teaching techniques during the classroom. And of course, rules apply, always rules in which you have you could have and you could prevent or anticipate problems and also act immediately. Always clarify the rules so that your students keep them in your mind what is good and what is bad to do in the classroom. Always treat between each other with respect. And also, as we saw in the video, as teachers, we can use humor in the classroom, but we can use it constructively, not like joking with or with our children, with our students, sorry. And the most important, always choose a topic that is attractive to your students. Thank you.
Next, please. Could you please put the next slide, please? Okay, I'm going to talk about the discipline problems that we have in the classroom. As the author says, we have to focus on the prevention and treatment of discipline problems as they arise. Also, create a discipline atmosphere in the first place. Author says that we have to be aware that we don't have the students at the same level, and also we have no handle all the time the students at the same age. So we have to be aware about teenagers, and he gives you some instructions or some principles that we can use when we have dealing the problems. The first step is before the problem arises. Please, could you put the next slide? The author says that we have to make an agreement, and at early stage, we have to make a work out within a writing agreement, discussing how it's going to be all the year, and how we are going to planify, the lessons, the presentation, the quizzes, the tests, all of the stuff that involves the students. Sometimes we have to make them, to be with us, with the teacher, if they agree in some points in order to change or make comfortable to them. Another one is plan the session carefully, the lessons carefully. As a teacher, we know that we need to be aware that we don't need to have gaps in the lessons so the student can get distracted. Another one is instruct clearly. That means when we are going to make some, some pair works, or we are going to solve some problems, to give them the instructions clearly so they cannot discuss between the students, because sometimes they don't understand the instructions that they give already to them. and they can start to make noise, between 2 students, 3 students, so we need to try to control that. He also mentioned about hidden touch. Hidden touch is about the teacher has to be walking around the course and taking care of the students because sometimes they don't understand or they can get distracted easily. Next, please. Now, we have another step when the problem is beginning. So the first one is deal it quickly and quietly. So the best action is quiet but clear cut. So sometimes we have to take a quick action when the problem is beginning, because sometimes if they don't take action because the unexperienced teacher, they just let them pass and at the end can grow the problem and make it bigger. Another one is don't take it personally. That means that sometimes the teacher are taking the problem personally, but you don't have to take that person because sometimes the student doesn't want to mean that, or you can misunderstand the problem. And experienced teachers of adolescents are often upset by remarks that were not intended personally or allow unpleasant conflicts to continue annoying them. Don't use treats. This is really important because we cannot negotiate with the students. We can, at the beginning, we can make the rules clear and we make an agreement already with them. So we cannot we don't need to be used with them, yeah? Next, please. And the last step is when the problem explodes. Here, we need to be really aware because the situation in the class could be really unmanageable. That means we can have a confrontal rule. We can have a students, arguing all the time, even if they are not in agree with the teacher. They can make some complaints, and we can all the time to control this and don't misrespect, no? Here, the first episode is explode yourself. Often a quick, loud command will do the trick with a display of anger. This is provided, of course, that you do not really lose your temper or become aggressive. The trouble with displaying anger is that you cannot do it too often. It loses its effect. That means we cannot be angry all the time because the students can realize how is going to react the teacher. So we can use it just once in a while. The second one is keep it in. For example, if the students refuse to do some work, we could say, all right, don't, or instead, let's do this. This is a perfectly respectable option, which is unfortunately rejected by many teachers who feel they risk losing face. Its advantage is that it immediately diffuses the situation, and if it done quickly and decisively, will not be seen as dishonorable surrender. Third, make them an offer they can refuse. Sometimes you find that the students are pushing you into a confrontation and you cannot give, but you can, instead, let's say, okay, we are making a tough work. So we can say, okay, guys, we are going to finish here and tomorrow we're going to continue with the same task. This is a really good idea because sometimes we can give them extra time. Maybe they need it in order to finish the task that we put out already. And the fourth one is assistance from a higher authority. This is when you cannot manage already the situation of the classroom. So you can call, the school principal or another authority that may appear in your classroom and try to calm them. Next, please. The authors mentioned 3 episodes that we are going to try to realize how we are going to handle if this happens in your classroom. I'm going to paste in the chat the questions that they are going to respond to me. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here is episode 1. The teacher While a mixed level class of 13 years old is working through a class readers in an English lesson. He asked Terry to read out a passage. Do we have to do this book, says Terry. It's boring. Some members of the class smile. One says, I like it. Others are silent, awaiting the teacher's reaction. Okay, could you help me please, Miguel, with the questions that I put it in the chat?
Oh, the question you put in the chat, which one? Sorry, didn't get it.
What causes the problem? And the other one, what could the teacher have done to prevent it?
What caused the problem here?
Apparently, we don't have the questions.
Have the questions in the chat.
No, we don't have him. Sorry.
It was for one person. Okay, it's done already.
There you go. Okay, good. Actually, it's not clear what caused the problem. You just gave an instruction. And what I could have done to prevent it, I don't know how to prevent it if I don't know the cause. I mean, how can I solve it? Maybe it is important to solve this kind of situations because if you let other students agree with him, it's going to become like who hates the class the most, and you need to avoid that.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Thank you.
How to prevent it? I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, this one is particular about the book, I guess.
Yeah, we have
right?
we have 3 episodes that the actor says what we have to do and how we're going to react.
Right. So yes, most of students, some students are not going to like the book. Not everybody likes the book. So, sorry guys, I know you might not love this, but we have to.
We have to. Yeah. Next slide, please.
You pay for it, or you gotta do it.
Yeah. Yes, you pay for it. Your parents paid for it, so let's make good use of your family's money.
Okay, we have the episode 2. The teacher has prepared a worksheet and is explaining how to do it. His explanation has carried on so long that John, having lost interest, begins to tap a ruler on his desk. At first, the tapping is occasional and not too noticeable, but John begins to tap more frequently and more noisily, building up to a final climax when he hits the table with a very loud bang. The class, startled by the noise, falls silence and looks at both John and the teacher to see what will happen. Please, Paco, with the 2 questions, how you handle this situation? Could you help me, please?
Yeah, what have caused the problem? I mean, it says like he lost interest. So if the moment he started tapping, probably you could have called his attention somehow to participate in class to snap him back to the activity. And what could you have to prevent?
I'm sorry, yes, Paco, I agree with you. The teachers' lack of immediate reaction. That was the problem.
Yeah.
They have reacted immediately.
Yeah, because as teacher, we have to react immediately because we cannot allow this, in my opinion also. Thank you.
Yeah.
The next slide, please.
Can I just say something for a sec in this second episode? I'm sorry. All right. Yes, the lack of reaction, but we have to be careful what kind of reaction you want to give, right? Because Paco said something, you as a teacher could do something to bring him back to the class, right? Maybe who was John, right?
Yeah.
John, would you please continue reading the instructions? So I make him work with us. So he reads the instructions. Or I just simply approach him and just give him a gentle tap in the shoulder, like, just take it easy and keep moving. So nobody sees it, but John knows I'm paying attention to him now, right? Just that could be the reaction of the teacher, not stopping the class and making him be in the eye of the storm right now.
I think it also has to do with may I just sorry.
Edwin, I'm sorry, but your audio is a bit funny.
Okay, so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Very lowly.
Oh my gosh.
There,
well, I think
there you are.
I think it has to do also with the relationship, the previous relationship you had with the students. Because if John permanently behaves like that, then of course you'll react quickly. But if John is one of the top students, maybe you didn't expect that. I mean, it has to do with that too, part of the context, I think.
That could be also.
Yes.
And Professor, maybe it could be that encouraging another way and tell him, great, are you a musician or would you want to be part of? So at that moment, we are going to create a nice atmosphere and get his attention just for a little moment.
Once again, it all depends on the kind of relationship you have with your students.
Obviously.
Right? If you are used to making jokes with them, that is okay.
No.
Right?
But it depends, because sometimes you are making jokes, but you know, if you are doing that all the time, you are not taking it serious.
Yeah. Once again, it all depends on the context and the kind of relationship you have with your students. But yes, because we have a musician, just reminded me of the song Poems, no less. We've got ourselves a poet.
Yeah.
So that can be tricky, especially.
Good one.
Okay, please next slide, Vale. Okay, we have the final episode here. The students have been asked to interview each other for homework and write reports. In this lesson, they are asked to read aloud their reports. A few students refuse to do so. The teacher tells these students to stand up before the class and be interviewed by them. They stand up, but they don't take the question seriously. The answers with jokes on their L1 or not at all. The teacher eventually sends them back to the places. Okay, how to deal with this? Isolina, please help me with the questions in the chat.
Well, I think it depends on the type of students you have, because it just seems like their behavior just, to cause trouble. So here, a way that the teacher could prevent from this to happen is probably find a time to speak to the students privately, and then try to find ways so they can they behave better. Find like acuerdos. I can't think of the word in English. Maybe that. I don't know. Agreements. Yeah.
Agreements.
Yeah, could be fair enough.
Sorry.
Somebody else?
Yeah, I don't know if that's an excellent idea to prevent the situation. But what do you do after that happens? Who could help me? What do you think? What could you do if that happens and everyone's waiting for your reaction?
Probably not to be so disruptive with the class. Like you could follow up also with a joke or like introduce like something in like first language and move on the activity, and then like find the time to talk to them privately. So the class doesn't seem to be like brutally like rude.
I agree on moving on with the activity, but you cannot make, I don't think you could make jokes because they are making a joke of your class.
Yeah. All right. If I may, okay. This is already something that happened in the classroom already, right? There is no way to prevent this, right? Because this can be the kind of situations you have when you deal with certain kind of students that tend to do the same thing usually, right? So the idea is just, okay, do not threaten them, just remind them that, okay guys, remember, this is part of your grade too. If you don't participate adequately, your grade is going to suffer for this. So are we going to work or not? No, thank you very much. Have a seat. Let's move on. You move on with the activity, and when the class is finishing, you call them in and you stay with them and talk to them. And then only with these couple of students, be a bit more strict. I just, okay, I don't want this to happen again. Let's please keep things friendly and okay. I didn't love your attitude today. So if we are going to behave like this, we can have problems later on. Marcelo.
Yes. Well, I think that in order to have this kind of students, in order to have this kind of reactions, is because the students are used to behaving this way. So in order to prevent this, you have to do something before. I mean, you have to get agreements, as Selena said, agreements to take this kind of homework seriously. Yeah, because in order to have, as I said before, this kind of environment is because some classes before they behave like this. So at the beginning, you have to establish rules. If they listen rules, so we won't have this kind of reaction.
Oh, definitely. The first thing to do is to have clear rules. All right, guys, let's break it here today. Tomorrow we will finish with the conclusion and the practice thingy that we're missing.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. No tomorrow,
No.
Christian.
Yes, tomorrow.
Tuesday. Yes, guys, yes. You're fun, so I want to see you every day. No, but you should rest from me. I know. I know.
Sorry.
All right. Have a lovely rest of the week and weekend, and see you on Tuesday. There, yes.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye.